Hey guys, you've joined us live on Moneycontrol. I'm Manisha Gupta. We're talking commodities, and the commodity in focus today is steel, where we have seen the prices gain up by almost a percentage in this week. And for the month, it's up by nearly 4% as well. It's quite a deterrent, by the way, because many of the other metal prices have been trading in the negative for last 3 weeks now. But steel is up because we've seen some demand pick up here. The inventories, though, for rebar have gained up by 35% in this year until now. The markets are slightly disappointed because we've seen China really not do as they have been talking about. Market have been waiting for a big bang stimulus measure to come in from China, and they were anticipating a big interest rate cut as well. But all you got was a 10 basis points, and it wasn't touched for the 5-year prime lending rate as well. So yes, a bit of a disappointment there. And then the markets are looking at inventories surging up too, and that has been weighing on steel prices as well. But the India story continues to be positive, and so does China, and we'll talk in detail about that. For that, joining us on the show now is Dhruv Goyal. He is CEO Steel Mint. Dhruv, hi, thank you so much for joining us. And let's talk about the steel demand first, and let's talk about China. And we are looking at weak numbers from there on. What's your sense, first of all, coming in from that country?
Hi, Manisha. Thanks a lot for giving this opportunity. So, coming to China's number, China has not performed well. Starting of the year, people were expecting that COVID restrictions have been lifted, so demand will improve, but that has not been the case. And in fact, you see the production has been quite high in the first 7-8 months, and even their exports have been higher by 30% what they did in the last year. So that not only pressured the domestic industry as well as the global industry was under pressure because exports were coming from China at a very lower price compared to maybe say India, Turkey, or Southeast Asian country. Although generally in China, this period, in the winters, which starts somewhere with September, October, generally they go for production cut because of the environment. And there are rumors that possibly there could be some official announcement from the government on cut measures they have to take this year, which has not come yet. But in case if that comes into the place, then probably we can see some balancing or some support in the prices. And in case if it does not, then I think the Chinese production is still high, and then probably the pressure on prices will continue to remain for next rest of the year.
Sure. So I'm not exactly asking you for a price view here, Dhruv, but if China does come out with an output cut for the steel mills, how much of an approximate percentage point increase would you expect in prices?
Difficult to quantify it, but in case if China, comes out with the production cut policy, which I said this is rumored that possibly government will come out with some official policy. So the idea is that they have to keep the production either similar to 2022 or little lesser than 2022. In the first half, they've already produced 570 million ton. So for the rest 6 months, they have around 470, 480 million ton, which they can produce idly. So I think a lot will, in case if this thing comes out, then on a monthly basis, the production could be as low as 3 or 4 million ton, and that will have a direct impact on the exports. But difficult to quantify on prices.
Well, sure. So that's about China, and China, of course, is a major player there. But India has emerged as a major producer and in recent few months as an exporter as well. If you look at the last quarter, the export numbers as well look good. How would you look at the steel India story?
I think India is it's a very good growth story compared to any other part of the world. India is probably the brightest spot in terms of demand as well as in terms of production. Although last 1 year the industry has not performed. I mean, last 1 to 1 year the performance was much better than what they performed last year. But overall the growth story is quite intact.
Dhruv, also with the kind of push that India has right now for manufacturing, for infrastructure, energy transition, etc., do you see steel playing a big role there?
I think very big role that we are expecting in this context. So as you rightly said, that first the biggest change would be seen in the energy transition when we are seeing a lot of these green energy stuff happening across the India. So that will definitely generate additional incremental demand for steel, plus a lot of exports which are taking place directly or indirectly. For example, if you see the car exports number, they are probably almost all time high. So that is indirect exports of steel. So that is also pushing the overall demand in Indian context.
Hmm. So if I had to again push you for some numbers, Dhruv, what is your sense on the production growth for steel in India and consumption growth as well?
So production this financial year FY 2024, in case if we continue to produce at the same rate, possibly the production could be as high as 135 million ton, which was around 125, 126 last year.
Okay.
And I think demand will last year what we estimated was around 120 million ton. Demand will fairly do better because elections coming in next year, so there's a push from every government to complete the projects. So I think on a fair side, it could be anywhere between 128, 130 million ton on the demand side, but production could be anywhere between 135, 136 million ton.
I have a final question on the price side as well. So, with the way when you look at the overall metal basket, iron ore is done well, and the only other metal that's done well perhaps is steel. Then, would you say that ferrous metals will lead the price rise when you look at the overall sector?
So I think a lot will depend on China
Okay.
because if you see India's 10-15% of their production output is still dependent on exports. In case if China is active in export market and serving other countries at a competitive price, then probably India become uncompetitive. So that will put some pressure. But I think in the next quarter we are expecting demand volumes will definitely increase. Prices may not increase, but volumes will have certainly room to increase from last quarter.
All right. So good volumes, good demand, and not so great, not so high prices. Perhaps is going to be a good story. But also, my last question really: what's your sense on the cost of production then?
Yeah, so coking coal numbers for the next quarter, everybody is expecting. So, there would be a dip in the coking coal, the quarterly contract. So that will definitely help cut down the cost of production, at least for the larger mills.
Fair point, Dhruv. Thank you so much for joining us today on Moneycontrol and talking to us. So great numbers coming in there, good expectation in sense of volumes and demand and Indian production as well. With that, that's all the time that we have on. We'll get to you, of course, more commodities and more interactions coming over.
How do world leaders view India?
I've long believed that the relationship between the United States and India is will be one of the defining relationships of the 21st century.
The bright spot of the global economy.
The growth rate for India, which is 6.8 in 2022. Let's not forget, this is one of the bright spots in the global economy right now, such a high growth rate.
The potential of India is enormous, and you have now a reformer, a radical reformer, who has the ability to transform it.
On the verge of a big transformation.
इस अमृत काल में हमारे संकल्पों की सिद्धि हमें आजादी के 100 वर्ष तक ले जाएगी.
A magnet for investment.
I'm actually incredibly excited about the future of India. I think India has more promise than any large country in the world.
The world is bullish on India. Moneycontrol is bullish on India. Join the campaign. Tweet to us with #MC Bullish on India.